Everyone froze when he walked into the grand wedding hall. Guests whispered, sidestepped, and gave him cold stares, like he didn't belong. He was sharply dressed, calm, yet invisible to everyone. Except the bride. No one knew why she seemed different, why her eyes lit up when she saw him. Then, in a voice that echoed across the room, she said his name. Silence fell. Jaws dropped, and in that instant, the invisible became unforgettable. What secret connected the bride to the man everyone avoided? And why did one name change everything? It had been a long journey for Marcus. Growing up, he had always felt the weight of invisible walls, doors that opened for others but seemed locked for him. But today, dressed in a tailored black tuxedo, he was determined to celebrate love and happiness, not confront prejudice. The wedding venue was stunning. Chandeliers reflected light across polished floors, white roses lined the aisles, and laughter floated through the air. Yet, the closer he got to the crowd, the colder the atmosphere felt. Guests whispered behind hands, shifted away, avoided eye contact. No one approached. No one smiled. It was as if his presence was a shadow in a room of light. But then, across the room, the bride appeared. She didn't flinch. She didn't turn away. She looked straight at him. And in her eyes, he saw recognition, relief, even joy. The question lingered. What did she see in him that everyone else refused to acknowledge? Marcus moved cautiously through the throng of well-dressed guests. Each step seemed heavier than the last. Some whispered, "Who invited him?" Others muttered, "I can't believe he's here." He tried to ignore them, clenching his jaw and reminding himself that his purpose wasn't to justify his existence to strangers. Memories of past humiliations flashed in his mind. Teachers who doubted him, employers who overlooked him, strangers who assumed he didn't belong. And yet, here he was, standing in a hall meant for celebration. As he approached the bride, he noticed subtle gestures from her. A hand raised to quiet a whispering group, a warm, encouraging smile, a subtle nod that seemed to say, "It's okay. You're meant to be here." Every pair of eyes on him was a judgment, a barrier, a test of patience. He took a deep breath, feeling the tension thicken like storm clouds above. Then came the moment that would mark the turning point. A woman in a sparkling gown approached, frowning. "Excuse me, do you know anyone here?" she asked, voice tinged with suspicion. Marcus paused, steadying himself. "Yes," he replied simply. "I'm here for the bride." The words seemed to hang in the air, heavy and unexpected. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Some froze, unsure of how to react. Others whispered even louder, exchanging shocked glances. The bride stepped forward, her hand extended. "Marcus," she said, loud enough for the entire room to hear, "I'm so glad you're here." The name seemed to shatter invisible walls. Heads turned. Murmurs erupted. Suddenly, the man everyone had avoided was not just a guest. He was part of the story, part of the celebration, part of a history that no one else understood. The room fell silent, every eye fixed on Marcus and the bride. The whispers stopped, not because people wanted them to, but because the truth could not be ignored. She took his hand, holding it for all to see. The guests, initially shocked, began to understand something they hadn't considered. This man, this figure of scorn, was not a stranger. He was someone who had shaped her life, someone whose presence mattered more than their shallow judgments. Suddenly, one of the gossipy guests spoke up, a tremor of shame in her voice. I didn't realize." But the bride didn't wait for explanations. She turned to the entire room, her voice strong and unwavering. Everyone here has forgotten what matters. Today is not about appearances. It's about love, loyalty, and truth. Marcus has been my anchor, my family, and my friend. If you can't see him, you've missed seeing the humanity in all of us. Marcus's heart pounded. Emotions surged. Relief, vindication, and a quiet sorrow for all the years of misunderstanding he had endured. Tears welled up in some eyes, shame flushed others, and a few heads bowed in quiet respect. In that moment, the power dynamics shifted. No longer was Marcus the outsider. The judgment had flipped. The silence was no longer oppressive. It was reverent. By the end of the ceremony, Marcus walked beside the bride, fully seen and fully respected. Conversations that once carried suspicion now held admiration. Some guests approached him, tentative but sincere, offering apologies, handshakes, and smiles. The invisible barriers had been torn down, not by argument or confrontation, but by courage, truth, and unwavering presence. As the celebration continued, laughter and music filled the hall. Marcus reflected on the experience, realizing that prejudice often blinds people to what is real and meaningful. The story